what do you understand by Narayana Sukta? Have any one of you heard about it, and what do you understand?
I have not heard and I have not read. I do not know anything about it.
Okay, fine. Anything of Padma Shri? Have you heard about it?
I've heard about it. Don't know much about it. I've heard all the three of them: Narayana Sooktam, Sutta, Sri Sutta, all of them I've heard.
Okay.
And my son recites some of them also, Purusha Sutta and Sri Sutta, but I have not. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know much about it. But only I always feel Narayana is from what you have been talking throughout in the last few days. Few days meaning few months. I've always felt this Atma, Atman, Brahma, Brahman, and Narayana are all the same in its purest form. When it manifests, it's called Narayana. In its purest form, when it manifests, it's Avatara. But Narayana is what is there in each one of us. So it is the same Brahman which is there in each one of us. So that is the only essence that I have felt when you were talking about Narayana Sooktam. That is what I was thinking about Narayana.
Perfect. Good.
What I have done is after your recent few talks, I started looking into that along with the meaning. Then I started loving it because of it is there within us. It nicely explains within our heart, and it is in the form of lotus in the ulta direction. The way they have explained about heart and all is amazing. To this Sanskrit. The only thing is I was not in a position to break those words to that level. And when I have gone through this, say at sentence level, it started giving me so much of inspiration for doing meditation to that particular point. One point it says the Narayana is residing in a smallest possible size, like you have raised that one small point up to that level. And then he is responsible for creating this Maha Agni inside. That Agni creates about temperature starting from toe up to the head. Without that Agni, we can't digest anything. So the food conversion is also happening through that Agni. And around that, there's such a beautifully they have explained in a very systematic way. And I read at least 5 times in the last 2-3 days.
Very good.
Okay. So nice.
Okay, so let's start with that, and before we start, let's understand what is reality. When we talk reality is 5 elements plus 1 consciousness. That's all. That's a reality. 5 elements are going to be existing, and consciousness is also going to be existing. So Purusha and Prakriti are going to be coexisting all the time immemorial, and both are Ananta. Okay, now what are we interested in? We are interested in not in rebirth process, but to stop the rebirth process. To stop the rebirth process, the consciousness should not then attach itself to the 5 elements, the 5 bhutas, panchabhuta. If they were to get attached like what they normally do, then it creates something called as life form. And with this life form, the being exists, called as prana. So when we say prana, can be roughly translated as a being. So, or we can call that as a person or an animal or whatever, God or whatever we want to call in that realm of existence. So that creates something called as an existence. And that existence is called as Sat. And this consciousness can take various forms and shapes and different varieties, and that varieties is the Chitta. And the light coming in the Chitta is what Narayana is all about. So we again come back to the same basic principle what we spoke some time ago about Chitta. So everything we do whether good deed, bad deed, neutral deeds are part of that Narayana itself. So there is no transmigration as such, it just follows whatever, wherever the equipment is supposed to be powered on. So the example what we were talking about is on the laptop. The laptop remains the same. The battery is the prana and the software is the manas, the chitta. So as long as the power on is going to be there, external power, the battery can be charged and can be used. But when the karma ends, no matter the power is on, that power on, the recharging is not happening, so the battery will start losing its power. The prana keeps on going out. In the end, the battery drains out and the computer switches off. Even for that to happen, there is Narayana. So it is worthwhile to understand what is this Narayana all about. So Narayana in real sense, if you were to take it, just consciousness, pure consciousness, nothing else. And it is formed from two words. Nara plus ayana becomes Narayana. Nara means one which integrates, like the nervous system. It integrates everything. The parts get integrated through the nervous system. And Nara is also a thing to be talked about as a human, actually, but it is wherever the what we call a sentient being is nothing but the Nara. So from ant to whatever we can perceive, all has this Nara. Ayana means established. So the energy which is established in every nerves you could find is Narayana. So that's the meaning of Narayana. So that
Na
means
is Nara, Na is Nara, and Ayana is
Ayana is to establish.
establish.
So the energy gets established in the nervous system. So without nerves, you are not there. The identity itself is not there. So now there are 72,000 nadis and 36,000 in each one of them. In each one of those nadis is this energy, what we call as Purusha, or we call it, can be called as Narayana, or can be called as Brahman or Atma or whatever, Atman, not Atma, Atman. So all of these tend to the same thing, that there is an energy inside this body, very body, which is embodiment of the universe. So whatever you find in the universe, you find it inside your own body. Instead of searching for stars and celestial and all that, you can search within your body and you'll find the same combinations. There is no difference in this and that. So this main aim of Narayana Sukta is to get into that. So we'll start with that. Om Sahasra Shirsham Devam Vishwaksham Vishwasam Shambhuvam Vishwam Narayanam Devam Aksharam Paramam Padam. So Om is Vaishwanara Taijasa Prajna, the waking state and the sleeping state and the deep sleep state, and then the silence, Turiya. One who is in Turiya can see that it is Sahasra Shirsha. It's like you can't count those many heads. What it really means is that this, what I call as me, is split into thousands and thousands and thousands.
Vilas, if you don't mind, can you record this?
Yes, I'm doing it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Devam is giving. Vishwa Aksha. Vishwa is the world created out of five senses. Aksha is eyes. Vishwa Aksham, Vishwa Shambhuvam. Shambhu is to protect. So the person who is creating it is protecting it also before it is destroyed. So what it really means, how do we create through five senses? The whatever we call as world is created through the five senses of sight, sound, taste, touch, smell. These are the five senses. So when I say I'm interacting with the world, I'm using the consciousness to manifest something for me as rupa, or the visible form, shabda as the audible form, gandha as the smelling, or to smell that form, rasa the taste form, sparsha the touch form. So whatever comes from outside is these five. To that, these five indriyas get attached, and this attachment between the tanmatra and these five senses, indriya, is what the consciousness can do. It brings in something which is impossible possible. Example: there is no office actually, but it creates an impression in office in your mind. There is no home actually, but it creates an impression of home in your mind. This impressions is what a person keeps on rotating himself with. And that act of doing or undoing is part of Narayana. So it is Vishwaksham, Vishwashambhuvam, Vishwam Narayanam Devam Aksharam Paramam Padam. This Vishwa, this world of five senses and five sense object, is coming into force because of that Narayana, that one consciousness which is residing everywhere in every given place, which can connect it. And it is Kshara, and it has Deva Guna. That means it keeps on giving, it doesn't take anything at all. Paramam Padam. Paramam is ultimate. There can't be anything ultimate than this, because it is eternal. Padam. That is what is said. Okay. Then we'll continue further. Vishwatah paramam nityam vishwam narayanagum harim vishwamevedam purusha tad vishwam upajivati. So Vishwatah paramam nityam. If something can be called as nitya, only this can be called as nitya, not the Vishwa. Vishwam narayanagum harim, also called as Hari. This consciousness is also named as Hari. Vishwamevedam Purusha Tadvishwam Upajivati. This is the one which is there in all beings and transcends in every given way in all the levels of existence. There is not a place where this is not established. So call it as Hari, call it as Narayana, it is what is established. So the Supreme Being is alone the reality. Everything else is an illusion, creating out of the same reality. Now I will tell you what it really means, and it's very easy to understand. If I don't identify, then it is Brahman. The moment there is identification, it becomes Loka, world. Now I have duality, I and the world. The original I is also true, the world is also true. So now you have two I. One I which is creating it, another I which is seeing it. So you get a mirror reflection of both, and both are true. So if you go by the Dvaita Siddhanta, both are true. If you go by Advaita Siddhanta, the one is false. Now what it really means for us, it means that whether it is a reflection or otherwise, they both are the same. They're coming from the same source. So one who understands this will not do any sin, because whatever is reflected, the action is done using the same consciousness. So when we say the chitta, the mind, will take all these impressions called as vasanas and using the samskaras, it expresses it again, for which Narayana again has to be there, without which cannot exist. So, the Brahman, or we call Narayana or Hari, whatever we want to call, will not get involved because it's an illusion. But from the standpoint of illusion, it is real. So, because there is already an identification. So, my example in the morning, what I said about curing my leg, is really an illusion to an extent of what is happening. That is, if I say it is my leg, that doesn't mean that there is no leg. Yes, there is Prithvi, Apo, Vayu, Tejo, Akasha. This is the reality, what is there. There's nothing called as leg. For easy understanding, for getting into some perceptions, we have created language and we call this as leg in English, because then it becomes easy. So then I can say it is not the leg, it is knee. So when I say knee, everybody can understand, oh, okay, it's not the leg, it is a knee. But what happened to the leg? Leg is gone. It's no longer held in the mind, in the chitta. It now holds to the knee. But what really was done, the consciousness, when called as Hari or Narayana or whatever what can be called, or Brahman, when you have a pure consciousness, if were to be reflected or taken to that part of the body and dissipated through colors which have happened inside, there are a lot of colors. If you were to remove those colors and insert a color of, let us say, light violet or lavender or some color which is curing oriented, then those dark colors get immediately broken down into a light color. And with the light color, what happens here is that the heat gets reduced, because the more the dark, the more the heat, the lesser the dark, the lesser the heat. Then, because heat is removed, then the space gets reduced and then the vata will go away. So, all that is part of what? That movement has happened not because of me, the movement has happened because of the consciousness. It's not me who did that. Even though conventionally I can say that I did it, in reality, it's only 5 elements and 1 consciousness. So, who did this is the consciousness. So, the pain is a way of indicating there is something wrong. If consciousness were to be taken there to that point through meditation, one can use the same consciousness which is lighting this whole body to cure that part also, because it realigns the Prithvi, Apo, Vayu, Tejo and Akasha. So that means wherever these 5 elements are there, consciousness is also there. So there's no person or anything like that. Even for that movement of these 5 elements to happen, you require consciousness. That's what this meaning is. And then the next line says, who is the Pati? So Patim Vishwasyatme Shwaragum Shashwatagum Shivam Achyutam Narayanam Mahagneyam Vishwatmanam Parayanam. So he is the Pati. Now, what is the Pati? Pati means one who can support. So, Vishwasyatmeshwaragum, that means wherever we call as a world, he becomes, that consciousness become itself as its own protector or its own savior. And Shashwata. Shashwata means it's always existing. Shivam Achyutam. Chuti means to cut. Shiva means auspicious. One which is auspicious, and you cannot cut the consciousness. There's nothing like cutting a consciousness. It cannot be cut into various parts. Narayanam Mahagneyam Vishwatmanam Parayanam. So this is the one should know. Parayana means is to understand this reality. Vishwa Atmanaha. That is, if I say I am Atma, then it is part of the same source from which it has come. This identity, the ego, which is trying to say I am Atma, is actually Anatma. It has nothing to do with it, but it blindly thinks that it is I am. So this ego has two things which have got clubbed. One is the prana coming from the prakriti, and one is the purusha. The essence of it is getting merged into a thing called as ego. It cannot see anything beyond it unless the intellect, the wisdom develops. Then only the ego will fall apart, saying that I don't exist. But even for that I don't exist or I exist, I don't, neither I exist, neither I don't exist, or whatever combination a person might come up with, it's this essence of consciousness without which cannot happen. So Narayana Parabrahma Tattvam, Narayana Paraha, Narayana Paro Jyotiratma, Narayana Paraha, Narayana Parabdhyata Dhyanam, Narayana Paraha. Now, Narayanam Parabrahmam. That is, now this is, he's come to Brahman. It's Param Brahma. Not Brahma as a Brahma realm of existence, is Param, ultimate. So that's a Brahman. Tattvam Narayana Paraha. That Tattva, that principle is Narayana itself. Narayana Paro Jyotiratma Narayana Paraha. Jyoti is light, Atma is what is residing within you. He is also of the same Narayana, and Narayana Paro Dhyata. When you meditate, what you see is this Narayana only. So basically, this is a reflective light, what you really see. And when you give up that reflective light, that suli or that whirlpool which was there will now go away and merge itself with the universal consciousness. So how that is done? Yaccha kinchit jagat sarvam drishyate he shruyate piva antar bahishcha tat sarvam vyapya narayana stitah. Now whatever yaccha kinchit, kinchit is so from the smallest to the largest. Jagat sarvam. Jagat is created of five senses and the five sense objects. Drishyate. Drishyate means what we see. Shruyate api. Like Shruyate is to hear, like that, taste, touch, smell, all of that. Va, like that. Antar bahishcha, that is inside and outside. Whatever you call yourself as internal, I am so and so person, is itself because of Narayana. Otherwise, if a consciousness were to depart now, you cannot say I am existing. Not possible. And if I say bahishcha, that somebody is existing, that is also part of Narayana. Because that person is again a Narayana. What is me? And the same me is on the other side. So it is a mirror reflection of whatever I am seeing. Tat sarvam vyapya narayana stitaha. So stitaha is once is established. So this consciousness is established in everywhere. So you don't have anything to say, or I don't have anything to say as mine or myself, and come into that conclusion. I cannot say this is myself and this is me, this is mine, or whatever combinations of that. Because that identification is the loka, whereas the originality which we take is because of the consciousness only you can identify, not otherwise. You cannot just have an identification. For identification, this has to be there. This consciousness has to be there. Anantam avyayam kavigum samudrentam vishwashambhuvam padmakosha pratikashajum hridayam chap adhomukham. Adhomukha, inverted. So, Anantam, limit, no end. Avyayam, imperishable. Kavim, omniscient. Samudre antam, if whatever you call as samudra, and the meaning of samudra is sa plus mudra, self impression. And that's the reason there are two words which is used. Samudra, what we call in spiritual sense is sir plus mudra, and if you call from a materialistic sense, it is called a sea. Why this is clubbed like that? Because the samudra, a sea, is formed out of mudra, impression of salt and water. And because it has solidity and liquidity combined together, coming into like a water with waves and that reaching to the ocean, similarly this mudra, sir plus mudra, has ultimately, it will go back to the ocean, which is supreme consciousness. So even though I have self identity as myself, in reality that self reality is expanded as supreme consciousness, without which this self identity cannot exist. So where it is then established? So samudre antam vishwa shambhuvam, that's what we call as vishwa. It's established everywhere. Shambhu is goodness, auspiciousness, and which brings in the bliss in everything. Padma kosha pratikashajam. Padma is lotus. So, like an inverted bud of a lotus flower, pratikashajam hridayam chapya adhor mukham. So, it is attached in the heart. In the physical heart, there is a bioplasmic heart. In that, it is attached. So this is called as Hridaya Vastu. Vastu is the matter. Hridaya is the heart. So everything, all emotions are from the heart. So if you were to say I am, it's coming from the heart, not from anywhere else. If somebody were to, that's the reason we touch our heart and say I am. How are you doing? I touch my heart portion and say I am doing good or bad or whatever. And this is exactly what every human being does. Adho nishtya vitastyante nabhyam upari tishtati jwalamala kulam bhati vishwasyayatanam mahat. So where it is? Below the Adam's apple, at a distance of a span and above the navel, so that will be in between. That means to say it's the middle of the heart. That is where this pure consciousness is enclosed along with the mind, which is chitta. And that is such a great flame, jwala, flaming. Mala kulam bhati vishwachyayatanam mahat. Mahat is the buddhi. So the buddhi along with the antakarana, then the chitta, and then this consciousness called as Narayana is completely established there, just like the firing. It's fearing. It's filled with fury. It keeps on growing and growing and growing with, looks like as though if it is adorned by garland by flames. So this is called as the universe. Why? Because the universe is made out of the same 5 elements plus 5 tanmatras plus 5 indriyas, the jnana indriya. So beyond that lies the Brahman. And without that, these elements, the five indriyas and the 5 tanmatras cannot meet. Santatagum shilabistulam lambadya kosha sannibham tasyante sushiragum sukshman tasmin sarvam pratishtitam. Surrounded by all the sides by the nerve currents, that is the arteries, this lotus bud of the heart is suspended in an inverted position. In that there is a subtle space. That is the entry of the Sushumna Nadi. That is where it meets up in the Anahata Chakra. And that is what is to be found in all things and all beings. So, Santatagum Shila Bistulam, that is, once it is established in this body as this, Lambadya Kosha Sannibham. So, it so subtly joins everything together. The Sushumna Nadi then connects it to the upper, that is the Sahasrara Chakra, where it lights up all the neurons. So when it lights up all the neurons, then you can see the whole universe, because that is what is right now being established. Tasya madhye mahanagnir vishwaschir vishvato mukaha sogra vibhajantistan ahara majarak kavihi. In that space and within that heart, this flame, which is undecaying, all-knowing, and it's spread out in all directions, with faces turned everywhere, consuming all food present before it and assimilating it into itself. Now, how do we understand this? It is not about you and me, it is about whatever is happening everywhere. So the 5 elements are consumed by the same consciousness and given out as 5 elements back. So it goes in, comes back, goes in, comes back, goes in, comes back. And it is there everywhere. So that creates this notion of Vishwa. Vishwaschir Vishvato Mukaha. Like a face which has this flame coming in all directions and spread out everywhere, as though a food is presented to it and it itself is eating itself. Tirya Gurdva Madashayi Rasmaya Tasya Santataha Santapayate Swam Deha Mapa Tala Mastakaha Tasya Madhye Vanhishika Aniryordhyorva Vyavastitaha. Now this rays which comes out, this is called as the aura, spreading all around, sideways as well above and below. Now this is called as Ushna, the body heat, the body warmth. It warms the whole body from head to feet. In the center of that, this flame, abides the tongue of fire. So this tongue of the fire is the consciousness which lights everything that comes in its way. So it lights good thoughts, it lights bad thoughts, it lights neutral thoughts. And it is established. Vyavasthitaha means it is properly established. It doesn't have any bias on anything. It just is there. It just being there. So now what happens is that this, what we call as Atma, due to misunderstanding as itself, gets into entanglement through a process called as attachment, raga, which is caused due to attraction. And whenever there is attraction, there should be dvesha, which is repulsion, and thus becomes a jiva and creates a world of its own, and with that creates suffering only. So the relief from suffering is called as pleasure. So whenever there is a suffering ending, it is a pleasure only. So the pleasure and pain cycle begins. And this consciousness has both. It seems as though it is enjoying, but it has got nothing to do with it. So it appears like a tiny streak of flame within the dark clouds of ignorance, the avidya. So this jiva, which is part of this consciousness itself, can rise above the raga, dvesha, moha, and can realize that I am not this consciousness. what it really means. If we see a ant to a dog to a human being to Deva, Brahma, whatever it is, can be perceived, and we either read about it or we understand about it or we experience it through our five senses, whichever way it is. It's a perception of what we are experiencing, not the reality. The dog world is different, the pig world is different, the fish world is different, the ant world is different, and so also the human world is different, and the Deva world is different, and the Brahma world is different. But the consciousness with which it is experienced is the same. But out of ignorance, this whirlpool which is created keeps on thinking that it is me who is experiencing it. If by chance it can understand that the same thing is there everywhere, and how does it know? How does a human being can know? Just like you watch a dead body. The dead body which I was talking about, my mother died and then the weight was more, or you can try it out with any body. As long as consciousness is there, the weight is reduced because consciousness is able to lift the heavy. So there is heaviness and lightness. The lightness and the heaviness is due to consciousness. So we can lift. When I say I'm lifting 50 kgs, I'm lifting 30 kgs, I'm lifting 10 kgs. It's not I who is lifting it. It is because of consciousness. This Prithvi, Apo, Vayo, Tejo, Dhatus combined together can be lifted. So there's a perception of lifting. Nobody can lift anything without consciousness. So if a person were to understand this and stop identification with it, he immediately becomes to see the universality in everything. Because that small I is gone. There's no need for it. But as long as that doesn't happen, there is always a suffering. Because you have to keep on creating an identity which cannot be identified. Let us say wife as an identity, or a husband as an identity, or an office as an identity, or a house as an identity. All these, if we really open our eyes and see, we are talking about four elements only. We are not talking anything else other than the four elements. If property is registered, it's a paper which is coming. Where is the property? We call something as a property, but even the land is four element, and the paper is four element. The signature, what I do, is also from the four elements. So nothing is there outside the four element, but the consciousness will show as though I have a property. So conventionally speaking, it is correct. But if we go to the ultimate reality, it's not. Similarly, I find myself established in my wife. If I could see it, then I can see universality. If I see myself different from my wife, then comes this conflict because she's different, I am different. I want her to change, and she wants me to change. So then we both keep on fighting who should change. So this jiva, then now it becomes two jiva. One jiva wanting another jiva to coexist in the way this other person wants. So that can never happen because it is driven by the impressions it has called as vasana and the samskaras. So the family has samskara. Whatever samskaras they are coming from, they are going to really do whatever the samskaras are there. So nothing that can be done. So one needs to see it in this way, that this is the same rays is spreading everywhere from the gross to the subtle. Nilato yada madhyastha vidyullekhe bhaswara nivara shukaptanni pita bhasvatya anupama tasyaha shikhaya madhye paramatitah sabrahma sa shiva sa hari sa indra so akshara paramah swarat rutagum Satyam Parabrahma Purusham Krishna Pingalam Urdhvaretam Virupaksham Vishwarupaya Vai Namo Namaha. So let us go through this. So Neelatala. The Neela is the blue. Akasha is reflecting the blue, but when there are clouds. Neelatalo Yada Madhyastat. Vidyullekhe. Vidyulla means lightning. So how does consciousness work is the question. How this movement happen? I think some time ago I had shared with all of you that I am able to see frame by frame. This is exactly what I was trying to mean. Yet every frame, millions of frames per second, it's just like a lightning. This gets connected and disconnected, connected, disconnected, connected, disconnected. So there is nothing like consistently it is happening. So this can be seen in electricity also. It can be seen in electric bulb. It can be seen it in a tube light. The most easiest to see it in tube light. You can see that the power is coming and coming and coming and coming. So there is not that it is a single stream. You'll get it in bits. So even in computer we talk about the byte. All of those added together becomes a byte. A bit of those 8 bits becomes a byte. So that means bit by bit something is going to come and accumulate together. But each is a single existence frame. They don't have life on its own. This consciousness, which looks like a lightning in during the rainy season, is what this consciousness does. Bhaswara, it is seen. So if somebody wants to see consciousness, how it is, they can see it using lightning as an example or a simile. Nivara Shukavatanvi Pita Bhaswatya Anupama. So it is comparable to a minute atom and slender like the paddy grain and like gold or yellow in color. And it grows splendidly in all directions. But it comes and goes, giving the movement. And again it comes, and again it goes, again it comes, again it goes. And this movement is formed. And in that movement, the senses will start to operate because it has enough energy for senses to operate. With the senses operating, the mind can then look at the sense objects through the eyes and ears and nose and tongue and then the skin and all that. It can sense. When there is a feeling, there is a perception. And the chittas can feel, they can perceive. They can do both. And it has called something called a smriti, memory. So it can memorize each one of them and keep on appearing, disappearing, appearing, disappearing. So the consciousness also appears and disappears. Mind also appears and disappears. So everything appears and disappears in an instant and keeps on coming back. So where can you find this flame like this lightning? It is in the shikhaya madhye. On the back side, where what we call as a pineal gland, which is in the frontal cortex, that light gets reflected on the back side. That's the flame. Tasyaha shikhaya madhye paramatma vyavastitaha. So this is what is called as the Paramatma. So if somebody wants to know how do I merge myself with Paramatma, very simple, drop ego. That light is there. This reflected consciousness called ego, or whatever we call as Atma, it is the one which is producing all the misunderstandings. So you drop that Atma and you are in Paramatma. You have an Atma, so you will have a Paramatma. If you don't have an Atma, only Paramatma exists. And that is called as what? Sa Brahma, sa Shiva, sa Hari, se Indra, so Akshara Paramah Swarat. You call by whatever name. This is itself the Brahma, Shiva the destroyer, Hari the protector, Indra the ruler, the imperishable, the absolute, the autonomous being. It itself sees itself as a creator. It itself will see itself as a sustainer. It itself will see itself as a destroyer. And it also itself looks itself as Indriya. So Indra, ruler. So Akshara, imperishable. Paramaha, absolute. Swarat, autonomous. Rutagam Satyam Paraha Brahma Purusham Krishna.
Vilas,
Yeah.
we have, I think, 9:31 IDs later, some quality meeting.
Okay.
Maybe, shall we continue tomorrow?
Yes, the last part we can continue tomorrow. No problem.
Yeah, yeah.
All right then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you everyone.
Yes, yes, it was good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.